Welcome, welcome, everyone who's here live and people who are joining us later. And today is February 21st. And today the sun is moving into Pisces, and the ruling planet of Pisces is Neptune. And so today we're going to talk about Neptune a bit and why we want to focus on Neptune, where Neptune is in your human design chart, what it means in your chart. And if you have questions regarding your Neptune in your chart, you can pop those questions into the chat and I will circle back to them when I can. And then we're also going to do a Kriya practice, and I'll talk a little bit more about why I picked this particular Kriya practice for working with Neptune. Just taking a look at the solar system and giving a little bit of an introduction here, the planets play a very important role in human design, and this is where astrology really figures into the human design system, is that we are following the planets. And we're looking at the planets where they are in the human design mandala when you were born and 88 days prior. And that's what creates definition in your chart, is where the planets are. And it's important to understand that the planets are in the gates. So when you're talking about these, you always want to say Neptune is in the gate, blah, da, 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 rather than the gate, blah, da, da, is in Neptune, which is one of the ways people talk sometimes when they don't quite understand what's happening here. So the way that it is we've got the mandala, and then the planets show up in the different gates. And then that translates to what shows up on the body graph. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute when we get to where Neptune is in the human design chart. And so the planets, the way that I really hold the planets is it's not so much that, that physical form out there is beaming down a certain energy to us, so much as it's activating inside of us. If we think of ourselves as a microcosm of the macrocosm, right? Holographically, the universe is in us, including the solar system. And so the planets are like archetypal energies that we actually have active inside of our own cosmic field, if you will. And so it's a way for us to get to know ourselves better. And what the chart shows us is how the particular archetype of Neptune is showing up in your particular chart and what it's lighting up. And I will talk about that in a minute in relation to my own chart. So Neptune is the god of the sea, and the symbol for Neptune is the trident, which I'll show you in a second. And so he's the god of the sea and spirituality, and also the unconscious is what I think of it. It's very watery, which relates to Pisces, right? Because Pisces is a water sign, and it's not so. We don't really associate it the same way, like with emotions, maybe the way that we do with Cancer or something like that. But definitely, Pisces is emotional. Neptune is the unconscious, and it's watery, and it's associated with like the mystery, right? And of dreams, which is from the unconscious, right? And then also sometimes illusion. Things are not always what they seem. And sometimes we cast illusions and we receive illusions. And so that's mysterious. And part of our role is to be able to cut through illusions and things that are not actually true, so that we can get to more of the core of what's going on. And this is part of our spiritual theme, if you will. So in human design, Neptune is showing us what our spiritual theme is. And because it's mysterious and because it has this kind of glamour of illusion, it can be veiled. It can be difficult to get a handle on what the spiritual theme is for us in our what Neptune is lighting up. So one of the things about Neptune is, since the astronomers, not astrologers, but astronomers have reduced Pluto to no longer a planet, then Neptune becomes the last planet outward in our solar system. Astrologers still consider Pluto to be a planet and certainly to be a very influential force on us. But Neptune has a 165-year orbit. So it takes a long time for Neptune to go all the way around the sun, right? And it also takes a really long time to go around the human sign mandala, which has 64 gates, right? And so it takes 165 years to go through 64 gates. And so that's about 30 years, right? Is that right? 3 years, about 3 times 64. Yeah, about 3 years per gate. But then also remember, Neptune it retrogrades a lot. So it comes into a gate and then it retrogrades back. And it can go back even to the one before and then comes forward again. It can even go back. And so it can spend a lot of time in a gate or a couple of gates through its retrograde cycle. And because of that, Neptune's influence is considered a generational influence, not just an individual one. All of the outer planets tend to be considered kind of generational influences. And so wherever Neptune is in your human design chart, you will have the experiencing that same energy with a whole bunch of people who are of a similar age to you. Right? Anywhere from a few years younger to a few years older will have Neptune in the same gate. So that means that influence is something that we feel with people who are of our generation. And it's very interesting to kind of think about it, okay, in that way. So, as I said, Neptune is associated with mystery, illusion, also with like trance states or deep meditation, the ability to tune into the quantum field, or what in yoga we call the great cosmic womb, the Vranagarbha, and non-local states, which we access through tapping into the quantum field, which is what we do when we do these Kundalini yoga practices. Is we actually tap into this quantum field. We go into our own auric field, but then we can also expand outward into the larger quantum field, and we can create there. And so it's really behooves us to discover how to work in that quantum field so that we can be more in command of what's happening in our lives. Yeah, psychic intuition also can be associated with Neptune. Sometimes there's confusion here because, like I said, the spiritual theme is often veiled because it is in the mystery, it is in the subconscious. And one of the things that can happen in the kind of disempowered expression of Neptune, kind of the underbelly, if you will, are things like drugs, alcohol, addiction, medicine journeys, potentially hypnosis, psychedelics, things like that, depending on how one is utilizing them, right? If you go into an unconscious state and you get trapped in addiction, right, then you can be utilizing substances in ways that are not necessarily benefiting you. However, if you know what you're doing and you know how to use psychedelics or plant medicines, then that can be very beneficial to you, depending on your understanding of what you're doing and your skill level and your intentions and all of that. So all of that is kind of in the realm of Neptune. So for me, I have Neptune double defined in my chart with the gate 28. Okay, this is not from my chart. This is from somebody else's. So let me just say, this is where Neptune is in your chart. Here's the symbol of the trident, right? It shows up a little bit differently depending on where you're pulling this image from. But just this is what it looks like in kind of the standard human design chart now. But I love this particular with this one. So it's down towards the bottom of the chart. And this one is in the gate 22. But for me, my Neptune is in both conscious and unconscious are in the gate 28. Now, let me just say it's very common for you to have Neptune in the same gate. It's going to be in a different line most of the time. You can see 22.2, which means it's in the second line of the gate 22. And here it's in the third line of the gate 22. But it's very common to have all of the outer planets or any of the outer planets double defined in your chart because, as I said, they stay in gates for so long. Their orbits are so long. And so this is not uncommon. So one of the things you want to do is pull out your own human design chart and see for yourself where Neptune is, because this is going to be one of your spiritual themes in your life. So just referring to my own chart, I, as I said, have Neptune in the gate 28, and the gate 28 in traditional human design is known as the gate of struggle. And in quantum human design, it's known as the gate of challenge. And so this energy, it's in the knowing circuit, it's individual circuitry, it's here to breed different, it's here to bring change, and it doesn't fit in. And so for a lot of people, that kind of energy can feel challenging because you don't fit in, right? You are different. You think different than other people. Sometimes people think you're strange or odd, or even freaky, right? Other times you might seem highly intelligent and intuitive and even genius-like. And those things do happen to people who have a lot of the knowing circuit in their chart. I have a bunch of videos about the knowing circuit on my YouTube channel, so you can go and check that out if you want. And the 28 is is known as one of the gnarly gates. If you will, in human design, because it has this energy of struggle. In fact, the whole channel, the 2838, has this energy of struggle. It has been a challenging energy at different points in my life. When I was much younger, I struggled a lot with different kinds of drugs and addiction. It was a part of my maturation process, if you will, in my early 20s to really kind of get a handle on that addictive tendency that I had. And it's still something that I pay attention to, but I've kind of learned how to channel that into something that's more of a devotional energy, so that I go, okay, well, if I'm going to be kind of obsessed about something, which is kind of what addiction is I'm going to be obsessed with like my health and taking care of my body and making sure I'm eating the right food, or doing Kundalini yoga practices, right? It's like channeling that same kind of obsessive energy into something that's actually beneficial and turning it into a devotional quality rather than an addictive quality. So that's something you might want to look at for yourself if you find yourself at times falling into things like, binging on Netflix or, whatever on Amazon Prime too much, or if you binge on sugar too much, or alcohol, or other kinds of drugs, or things that are really kind of just dulling your senses and sending you into a kind of a trance state, but not one that's beneficial for you. Because for me, actually, deep meditation is a trance state. Right. And that can be highly beneficial for you. But if you're going into a trance of like consumerism, for example, which is one of the things that we do with things like entertainment, right, as we go into a trance state. And I noticed it in myself, right? This is one of those things where, I get really interested in like, a TV series or something. And I notice I want to just keep watching, right? And depending on what your service is, it'll just give you the next episode. And the next thing you know, you've watched 3 episodes, right? And it's many hours later. And so even that is going into kind of a consuming trance where you're consuming entertainment. And it's not like in and of itself, unethical or unhealthy for you or damaging for you. But if you do it habitually and you do it without really realizing you're doing it, and you're doing it in a kind of addictive way, then that is not supportive for you, because it means that you're going into a pattern that isn't helping you. So this is one of the things that Neptune can help you kind of see, is like, Have I gotten kind of addictive? And the 28 is really known for struggling with addiction when it's when the Neptune is lighting it up. And when I learned that, I went, oh, no wonder I've had this challenge at different points in my life, right? Fortunately, I've gotten a handle on it. So I can recognize it in myself, and I can allow myself to binge. I did this the other night with my kid one night, on a show that we were really interested in, but we did it on purpose. Like I was like, it's Friday night. Let's just spend the night doing this. It's fun, but it's not a habit. It's not a pattern. So that's what you want to look at for yourself when you're looking at your spiritual theme that Neptune is lighting up. Is there a way that you are undermining your well-being through patterns that are kind of addictive or obsessive that are not helpful for you? So what I've really learned to do is to embrace the gate 28. And I do have videos about this on YouTube if you want to check this out more, because the 28 can also be an extraordinarily powerful ally and even a superpower when you learn how to use it for your own evolutionary process, because the evolutionary impulse of humanity lives in the individual circuitry and in the knowing circuit. And so the 28 can become your ally to be like, okay, yeah, this situation is really challenging. Something came along, you take the hit of that, or you look out into the world at the big challenges that we have today, and you go, wow, that's really challenging. And you could feel like a struggle. You could decide to go into addiction because it's all just a little too much. Or you could be like, okay, how am I going to meet this challenge? Where is my opportunity in this? What can I do with this? How can I turn this into an advantage? And when you do that, you really are kind of like on the leading edge of consciousness, because you're taking a situation that on the surface or initially feels even impossible, and you're saying, okay, what are we gonna do with this? And you're employing your intuition, you're employing your knowing circuit and your ability to plug into super consciousness to say, okay, I need some ideas here. I need some possibilities for what I can do in this situation. And that's what the knowing circuit can bring you. And that's what can come through that 28. So for me, the spiritual theme that Neptune is lighting up is that process of moving from a state of struggle, which can often lead to victim consciousness, into a state of, okay, how do I open up a realm of possibilities in the face of what looks super challenging? I was listening to watching a video with Joe Dispenza recently, and he said, we are commonly presented with extraordinary opportunities for growth, disguised as impossible situations. And I think that statement really articulates what the gate 28 is about, right? Is you can look at something that looks like an impossible situation, and then you have a choice, right? And so the most awakened, most highest expression of that is to go, okay, where is the opportunity for growth here? Where's the opportunity for a breakthrough? And so that is what happened for me. So I would encourage you to go ahead and take a look at where Neptune is in your human design chart. And you can just, I'm going to post this on the replay page in the community, and you'll be able to download it there. And so you'll want to find Neptune in your chart. You want to put in your the conscious gate and the unconscious gate, so black and red. And then you can say, Neptune is showing me my spiritual theme to be whatever that is. And so you want to be able to take a look at what your gates mean. And then you can say what I know about my spiritual theme in your own words, which is basically what I just did with that gate 28, right? As I was like, okay, how do I actually apply what I understand about Neptune to these gates? And what does that mean for me in my life? Because somebody else with Neptune in the 28 might have a very different experience than the one that I did. And then you want to think about during this Neptune time, what your focus will be. So we've got like this month where Neptune is the ruling planet, and you want to think about what you're going to do with your spiritual theme, right? How are you going to move it into its most empowered and vibrant and awakened expression if it's not there already? And even if it is, how can you bolster that? How can you expand it, right? And then we do have a current transit right now, and you can go in the community and look for that transit in the group that is for the transits, and it's posted there, so you can go and check that out. And this is really just for this week. It's through Friday. The next transit comes in on Saturday. And so you can kind of see what's going on with Neptune and how that relates to your chart.